British authorities have just identified the third London terrorist.
He's Joseph Zogby, an Italian national of Moroccan descent. An Italian newspaper says he was stopped at the airport trying to go to Syria last year and then put on a watch list, but someone must have blinked.
He's the guy on the far right. The other two have already been identified. Police also identifying the second victim of the attack. Her name is Christy Bowden. She is an Australian nurse. Her family says she was killed after running back to help people on the London Bridge.
Incredible.
Let's bring in Laura Ingraham. She is the founder and editor-in-chief of LifeZette. She's a Fox News contributor. Laura, it is stunning as we start to connect the dots on who these three killers were, because at least one of them was on TV last year on something called The Jihadis Next Door, waving an ISIS flag. So, you know, why wasn't he under 24 hours surveillance? People are wondering.
I think part of the problem, and there's many problems involved here, guys, but part of the problem is that the sheer number of individuals who are under surveillance and who have ties to radical groups within London, throughout the UK, is staggering. We're not talking about a couple of hundred. We're talking about thousands and thousands. We saw the same problem happen, remember, in Belgium before the Paris attacks. We've seen this problem happen time and again throughout Europe, where individuals are on watch lists. They're persons of interest for intelligence authorities. But I think they're overwhelmed. And this, I mean, it goes back to the initial problem that we've talked about so many times on this show, that's why it's so important that before you allow people to come into your country, you have a very good sense that they are interested in being, part of the British experience. They're not interested in undermining the culture or carrying out horrific attacks. How you really do that type of extreme vetting is proving very, very difficult,
well, the problem
especially
is,
with the mass migration into Western Europe.
And, Laura, the other problem is it's a lot of times the second generation. Their parents come here.
Right.
Next thing you know, with the Manchester bombing, that was the case with the Libyan tie. Now, this guy, the one we know about in detail, was actually in Pakistan. His parents were in Pakistan, left in the 90s because they were threatened. So they come to Britain, and they instilled the British culture so well, sarcasm included, that this guy grew up obviously hating the country and wanting being able to be radicalized via the internet and via some imams down the road.
Think about Brian, how long we were all talking about that hate preacher Anjem Chowdhury. How long was he doing what he was doing, spewing this vile hatred, inciting violence in his sermons? I don't want to call them sermons, hate speech. He was doing this for years and years and years. It was only last year where he was finally sentenced to 5.5 years in prison for the incitement to violence. But this was no big shock. I mean, we have video after video on YouTube or in news outlets that we can see of radical Islamists going through public parks and chastising women for the height of their skirts, saying about language. I mean, this is happening right now in Britain, and everyone's like, well, this is just what we're going to have to start living with. This is just, we're going to have to live with this. This is the cost of living in an open society. And I grew up in the 1970s, and I know we had hijackings and all of that in the 80s and so forth, but we didn't have this type of thing going on back then.
People were running over us and then trying to stab us to death.
That's why, in Laura, the left is trying to be so PC and love everybody. You have all these celebrities, the love fest.
Right, until the knife is at your throat. Yeah.
Right. We look at what's happening in London, and we have to look as a country and say, what can we learn from this? They were in the parks. Some of these terrorist suspects were in their parks with ISIS flags, and the local network, Channel 4 there, had them on doing this documentary, and no one went to their house and arrested them. Imagine if that happens in the parks here.
Well, yeah, well, there'll be a lot of people saying, you know, that's free speech and celebrate it. And that was all, all looked staged. Yeah, all of that looked staged, by the way. Didn't that look like that was all, okay, we're going to go in there, we're going to put our flag on the ground, then we're all going to, do the call to prayer, and we're all going to, that all looked, that whole entire thing was made for TV. And the journalists who were part of this, it's all part of the big scam. We saw that with the anti-ISIS protests that CNN was staging the other day. I mean, this is all part of the show. But the thing that's really sad about it, guys, is that innocent Brits and people traveling to London and all over the Western Europe Now, the price they have to pay for multiculturalism is the risk that you walking on the sidewalk and a man will, or a woman will purposely mow you down, and then while you're maybe finishing your cappuccino in a cafe or having a drink, someone will put a knife to your throat and slit it with the attempt perhaps to behead you. That's what we all have to live with for the free and open society that Sadiq Khan and all of these other multiculturalists want Britain to become. They want this is the nirvana they wanted to create, and this is what we have.
All right, something we have today is we have the name of a leaker, and we know that she's 25 years old. Her name, Reality Winner, apparently that's her real name.
Yeah.
She was a Trump hater. She has used the hashtag #NeverMyPresident. She appears to be a Bernie Sanders supporter. She worked for the contractor Pluribus International. She had top secret clearance, and she just mailed off to Intercept, which is the media publication outfit, a secret, a top secret regarding Russian hacking. She wanted to make Donald Trump look bad, and ultimately, what sort of justice does she face? I'm asking Laura Ingraham, the lawyer, now.
Well, she could be in, you know, she's subject to, you know, anywhere from 5 to 15 years in federal prison. She will, you know, she's already made several admissions without the presence of a lawyer, but she made them willingly, apparently, according to the initial report. So she's already convicted herself of some of the lesser crimes, but she's in real trouble. You know, there's a lot about this that is interesting. Number one, why did it take so long to find out that this woman was leaking? I'm glad we found out, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. There are people burrowed into the federal contracting world and into the federal government who have an anti-Trump bias, an anti-Trump agenda, and they will use every tool in their disposal to try to embarrass the administration and hurt what they are trying to accomplish, both on the international level and the domestic level. And this is just like someone you'd see at a random, you know, anarchist protest. You check out some of the photos on the Daily Mail piece about her.
You're not
She's
kidding.
a radical.
She's included the Women's March and the Islamic Society of America.
Lovely.
She says some vile things about our president. You got to go through all these contractors right now, and you got to go through questioning, polygraph, whatever it takes at today, because you know that she's not the only one.
Oh no! This is a situation that is rotting from within, and the rot, just like when you rot in a tree or you have to cut it out and try to regrow the plant. This is a deep rot within our government and within the contracting world. We saw this in the last administration. There was a lot of problems with leaking in the last administration. During the Bush administration, this is not new, but the ferocity of the leaks and the intention behind them is much more politically based versus just, oh, everybody should know this information. This is geared toward one thing: getting Trump out of office. And she's a radical. She should never have been working in this. She speaks 3 languages: Pashto, Urdu, I think, in Arabic. She's a linguist, but this has got to stop, and it's got to stop now.
Yeah. Hey, Laura, I'm looking at Twitter. The president just tweeted. He said the fake mainstream media is working so hard trying to get me not to use social media. They hate that I can get the honest and unfiltered message out. What's your response?
Well, I think he has an enormous following, and when he has a point to make that is salient and which kind of pulls us away from the verbiage of the day, cuts right through, he can be very, very effective. They don't like that, that's for sure. The only caveat I would throw to that is tweeting out anything about the investigation that's ongoing. I do not think that will help Donald Trump. I think, you know, if I were giving people advice in the White House, I'd say you're not going to win the investigation regarding James Comey in the press. You're not going to win it. You're going to win it with really great lawyering, really sober lawyering, but you're not going to win that through tweeting. You're going to win that through, you know, smart organization of your legal team and a great strategy. But you're not going to win it through the Twitter war.
All right. From Twitter to talking, Laura, go do your radio show.
Great to see you guys.
Good to see you too, Laura.